For years, Sister Wives patriarch Kody Brown has claimed he is finished with the plural marriage lifestyle that once defined his entire identity. After watching his family unravel and seeing 3 of his 4 wives walk away, Kody seemed resigned to a future of monogamy with Robin. But in a shocking revelation that left fans reeling, Kody admitted there is one, and only one, reason he would ever consider returning to polygamy. His confession has sparked intense speculation, reigniting debates about whether the infamous polygamist could ever truly leave his old ways behind, or if the door to multiple wives will always remain slightly open. For over a decade, viewers of TLC's Sister Wives have been captivated by the dramatic and often chaotic life of Kody Brown, a man who built his entire identity on polygamy. From the very first episode, Kody presented himself as a proud husband with a dream of raising a large family through plural marriage, and millions tuned in to see how 4 women and their children could possibly coexist under one complicated household. But as the years passed, that dream shattered before the eyes of fans, leaving behind a trail of broken relationships, bitter feuds, and a fractured family that looked nothing like the united front once portrayed on screen. In recent years, Kody has been adamant that his polygamous days are over, claiming that the turmoil, heartbreak, and betrayal he experienced with his wives left him scarred beyond repair. Yet viewers had grown used to the image of Kody as a man resigned to monogamy, clinging to Robin as his last wife standing, and using his failed marriages as proof that polygamy simply does not work. His statements over the past seasons painted a picture of disillusionment, bitterness, and regret. Yet Kody's latest confession cracked open a possibility few saw coming, that under the right circumstances, he could once again embrace the very lifestyle he once abandoned. What makes this revelation so explosive is not just the possibility of Kody seeking another wife, but the reasoning behind it. According to insiders and hints from Kody himself, his willingness to reconsider polygamy is tied not to romance or religious calling, but to legacy and redemption. Kody, who has been portrayed in recent seasons as a man desperate to regain control of his narrative, reportedly believes that the only way he can truly restore his reputation is by proving that plural marriage can work. In his eyes, the collapse of his family has been blamed squarely on his leadership, and the criticism from fans, children, and even his ex-wives has tarnished the image he fought to uphold for years. Returning to polygamy, under his terms, and with a new kind of structure, might be his way of rewriting history. Fans were quick to react with disbelief and outrage. On social media platforms like Twitter and Reddit, longtime viewers mocked Kody's sudden change of heart, calling it a desperate attempt to remain relevant in the eyes of TLC producers and the public. Many pointed out that his previous plural marriage ended in disaster, leaving emotional scars not just for the wives, but for the children who grew up in the chaos. Others speculated that Robin, often labeled the favorite wife, would never tolerate Kody bringing another woman into their marriage, raising questions about whether his confession was little more than an attention-grabbing fantasy. Yet even those who criticized him admitted that it made for compelling television, setting the stage for another wave of drama that could extend the life of Sister Wives far beyond what many predicted. To fully grasp why Kody's words carry such weight, it's important to look back at how drastically his perspective has shifted over the years. In the early seasons of Sister Wives, Kody was practically a salesman for polygamy, preaching its benefits with passion. He insisted that plural marriage offered love, community, and support, claiming that raising children in such a household fostered unity and strength. His wives, though often struggling with jealousy and conflict, tried to support this vision, and together they presented a family determined to normalize and even celebrate their lifestyle. For many viewers, the Browns were their first exposure to modern polygamy, and Kody relished being the spokesperson for what he saw as a righteous path. But as the time went on, cracks in the foundation began to show. Christine grew increasingly vocal about feeling unloved and ignored. Janelle became frustrated with Kody's shifting loyalties, and Mary found herself isolated and emotionally abandoned. The introduction of Robin only intensified these fractures, as many believed Kody favored her above the others. Over the years, what began as a show about unity devolved into a chronicle of marital collapse. By the time Christine announced she was leaving, it was clear to fans that the grand experiment had failed. Kody himself admitted on multiple occasions that polygamy had been a mistake, going so far as to say he no longer believed in it and would never take another wife. That is why his recent comments are so shocking. For a man who swore off polygamy so publicly and repeatedly, to now suggest that he might reopen that door has left many fans questioning his motives. Some believe it is nothing more than a ploy to keep the show alive. With most of his wives gone and the storylines revolving around endless arguments and separations, the future of Sister Wives has been in doubt. The introduction of a new wife, or even the pursuit of one, would certainly provide the kind of dramatic content TLC thrives on. But others believe Kody is genuinely grappling with his sense of identity. Having defined himself as a polygamist for decades, perhaps he finds it difficult to fully let go, especially now that his public image has been so badly damaged. Regardless of the motivation, the implications of Kody's confession are enormous. For one, it raises serious questions about his relationship with Robin. She has long been portrayed as Kody's true partner, the one he favors and prioritizes above all others. She too has expressed disillusionment with polygamy, lamenting the pain it brought into their lives. If Kody were to seriously pursue another wife, how would Robin respond? Would she resist, potentially threatening the stability of the only marriage Kody has left? Or would she reluctantly agree in order to preserve his vision of redemption? Fans are divided on this, with some arguing that Robin would never allow another woman into her marriage, while others suggest that if Kody framed it as a necessary step for the family's future, she might feel pressured to comply. Beyond Robin, the impact on the rest of the Brown family would be seismic. Many of Kody's older children have already criticized him for his behavior, accusing him of favoritism and neglect. The idea that he would bring another woman into the mix after failing so profoundly in his previous marriages would likely intensify those divisions. Christine, in particular, has made it clear that she has no interest in maintaining close ties with Kody beyond co-parenting, and she would almost certainly view his return to polygamy as yet another sign of his inability to accept responsibility for past mistakes. Janelle, too, who has embraced independence after her split, would likely see the move as a desperate attempt to avoid confronting his failures. For fans, the biggest question remains, is Kody serious, or is this just another one of his dramatic proclamations? He has a history of making sweeping statements in moments of anger or frustration, only to later contradict himself. His claim that he would never practice polygamy again was made with the same kind of intensity that now accompanies his suggestion he might reconsider. This inconsistency has become a defining trait of Kody's public persona, frustrating fans who crave honesty and accountability, but instead get shifting narratives designed to suit the moment. Still, even if Kody never follows through on his words, the very idea of him returning to polygamy has reinvigorated discussions about the show. Viewers who had grown weary of the endless cycle of arguments and separations suddenly find themselves speculating about what a new wife could mean, both for Kody personally and for the larger story of Sister Wives. Would TLC chronicle the search for a new partner? Would the ex-wives weigh in on his attempt to rebuild what they left behind? Would the children revolt at the idea, or would some support him in hopes of seeing their father happy again? The possibilities are endless, and that is exactly the kind of intrigue that has kept the show alive for more than a decade. What cannot be ignored, however, is the emotional cost of such a move. Polygamy is not just a storyline for television, it is a way of life that has left scars on nearly everyone involved in the Brown family. From the jealousy and neglect experienced by the wives, to the confusion and anger felt by the children, the fallout of Kody's plural marriage experiment is still unfolding. To consider stepping back into that world raises serious ethical questions. Would it be fair to bring another woman into a situation already marred by dysfunction? Would it be fair to the children who have watched their parents suffer? And would it be fair to Robin, who has already endured the collapse of her sister-wife relationships, to again share her husband? These questions hang heavy over Kody's latest revelation, and fans are left wondering whether he has truly thought through the consequences. Some believe his talk of returning to polygamy is less about genuine intent. The saga of Kody Brown and his fractured plural family has taken yet another shocking turn. For years, the patriarch of TLC's sister wives has spoken openly about the unraveling of his once sprawling household, where 4 wives and 18 children formed a family dynamic unlike anything seen before on mainstream television. Viewers watched with fascination as Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robin navigated the challenges of plural marriage under Kody's often controversial leadership. In recent seasons, however, that world came crashing down as one by one his wives walked away, leaving Robin as his sole partner. What once stood as a symbol of unity, faith, and shared family values devolved into a portrait of conflict, betrayal, and irreparable distance. Yet just when fans thought Kody had fully shut the door on the polygamist lifestyle, he dropped a revelation that sent shockwaves across the sister wives community. In a moment of startling honesty, Kody admitted that while he has vowed to remain in a monogamous relationship with Robin, there is, in fact, one reason that might drive him back into polygamy. For a man who has been publicly burned by the collapse of his plural family, the admission was nothing short of stunning. The idea that Kody, who has expressed so much bitterness toward the demands and failures of polygamy, would even entertain the thought of taking on another wife seemed impossible. And yet, his carefully chosen words revealed that while the pain of the past is undeniable, the door has never fully closed. The admission was not about nostalgia or romance, nor about religious zeal that once anchored his family structure. Instead, it was rooted in a startlingly personal motivation that has sparked heated discussion among fans, critics, and even former family members. To understand the weight of this confession, one has to look back at the journey of the Brown family. When Sister Wives first premiered in 2010, the Browns presented themselves as a modern plural family attempting to live in transparency, challenging stereotypes, and educating the public about their religiously inspired choice to practice polygamy. Kody positioned himself as a man of faith, love, and determination, someone willing to carry the heavy burden of balancing multiple relationships in pursuit of spiritual purpose. Over the years, however, cracks began to show. Mary's loneliness and eventual catfishing scandal revealed the fractures in their connection. Janelle's independence clashed with Kody's expectations of loyalty and control. Christine's growing frustration over feeling unloved and unseen ultimately led her to leave. And Robin, long perceived as the favorite, found herself increasingly isolated as the other women distanced themselves not only from Kody, but from the entire family dynamic. By the time the later seasons aired, Kody's faith in plural marriage appeared shattered. He described the lifestyle as exhausting, unfair, and even destructive, particularly after he accused his wives of betrayal and disloyalty. Many fans believed that the wounds were too deep for any possibility of reconciliation with the plural lifestyle. That's why his recent words have resonated so strongly. Kody's explanation for why he would consider polygamy again was not casual or flippant, it was pointed and deliberate. He acknowledged that his motivation would not be driven by the same sense of spiritual calling that once guided him. Instead, it would be about family legacy and the idea of redemption through a very specific kind of connection. The single reason Kody admitted he might return to polygamy centers around his children. Despite all the drama, the pain, and the fractured relationships, Kody revealed that the only way he would ever entertain another plural marriage would be if it somehow meant repairing and rebuilding his bond with his kids. His fractured relationships with many of his older children, especially with Janelle and Christine's, has been one of the most heartbreaking elements of recent seasons. Kody has openly wept about the distance, admitted to anger and resentment, and struggled with the reality that many of his children no longer see him as a guiding presence in their lives. For Kody, who has always tied his identity to fatherhood and spiritual leadership, the rejection from his children has cut deeper than even the rejection from his wives. His revelation suggests that if there ever was a path where plural marriage could somehow bring him closer to his children, whether through reconciliation with their mothers or by forging new family bonds, it could tempt him back into a life he once renounced. The confession immediately set social media ablaze. Fans debated whether this was a genuine window into Kody's heart or yet another manipulative statement designed to shift blame and control the narrative. Some argued that Kody's desire to use polygamy as a tool for reconciliation with his children was misguided, since his children have repeatedly emphasized that his behavior, not the structure of their family, is what drove them away. Others saw the statement as a rare moment of vulnerability, where Kody admitted that his deepest regret is the distance between him and his kids, and that he would sacrifice his comfort to restore those relationships. Christine, who has often been outspoken since leaving Kody, was quick to emphasize in past interviews that the problems in the family were not about polygamy itself, but about how Kody practiced it. She noted that a plural marriage could be successful if each wife felt valued and respected, something she felt she never received. Janelle echoed similar sentiments, often describing herself as spiritually aligned with plural marriage, but personally disillusioned by the imbalance of affection and attention in their household. With these perspectives in mind, fans questioned whether Kody's statement really reflected a willingness to change, or if it was more about holding on to an identity that had already crumbled. Yet the very fact that Kody could still envision a scenario where polygamy enters his life again highlights just how complicated his relationship with the lifestyle truly is. For decades, it wasn't just his marital structure, it was his faith, his culture, his identity, and the foundation of his television persona. Walking away from it completely has left him unmoored, tethered only to Robin, who herself has often expressed sadness over the collapse of the larger family. It raises the question of whether Kody's admission was less about practical reality and more about grappling with the loss of something that once defined him. Perhaps by framing it as conditional, based on the potential to rebuild with his children, he is keeping alive the idea that his plural family story isn't completely over. Viewers have long speculated about what drives Kody at his core. Is it faith, ego, control, or love? This revelation added yet another layer to that mystery. By tying the possibility of future polygamy to his children, Kody placed himself in the role of a father longing for connection, even if it meant revisiting the very structure that many of his kids have rejected. The irony was not lost on fans, who pointed out that many of his children have publicly distanced themselves from the faith and lifestyle that justified their father's choices in the first place. For them, polygamy represents pain and dysfunction, not healing. The likelihood that a return to plural marriage could mend those bonds seems slim,